Hey, John here from John's Do-It-Yourself. I picked up this toolbox at a garage sale for dirt cheap because the key would not turn and the shelves would not open. They told me I would need to drill out the keyhole. I thought I could do that and refurbish it, turn it around and make good use of it. I got lucky because after a bumpy ride home with the toolbox on its side in the back of the truck, the key managed to turn and unlock all but the bottom drawer. So after removing all the drawers, I figured out how to release the bottom drawer. So now I was really ecstatic because what I thought was going to be the hard part and the most damaging to the box was being bypassed. So let's start by refurbishing. I grabbed the shop vac to get the debris out of the bottom of the box. Then I did what any good parent would do. I recruited my kid, otherwise known as I went and woke him up and put him to work, pressure cleaning the box and the drawers. And that's what you get when you sleep in past noon at my house. While everything was out in the sun drying, I started cleaning the interior of the drawers. Now these drawers had a thin rubber matting on the bottom of each one, so the interior was in relatively great shape. A bit of glass cleaner and they were all shining. The next step was to sand down the box. I started with 60 grit sandpaper and hit all the areas of rust and paint peel. Then I moved on to 100, then on to 220. The key is to have any burrs or rough scratches sanded smooth and any transition from paint to bare steel completely smooth. My test was to close my eyes and just feel the side and top of the box, and you can feel for any deviations and then just re-hit those. I attempted to pull off the Craftsman logo without damaging it, but that was a no-go. I snapped off one of the pegs, so I will have to find something to cover the holes left by the logo later. Next, I pulled off the wheels so I could continue sanding the entire surface of the box. After everything was sanded that needed to be sanded, I wiped and cleaned it. Then I started on the bottom of the box with my first coat of primer. This would allow me to see how well this primer was going to hold up and how well it would stick to paint that wasn't raw metal. For the primer that I used, a link can be found in the description of this video. Liking my results, I continued on to the back of the box. This way I could get a good feel for what I was doing and perfect my style before I got to the sides and the front of the box for what was going to be seen the most. Getting this down to a science, I continued on with the top and the sides of the box. It was a hot summer day, so it did not take long for the primer to be completely dry, so I could continue on with the main color. I sprayed the same fashion as the primer, and before long the box was complete, just in time as I heard some thunder rumbling off in the distance. Next, I needed to tape up the chrome handles on the drawers. I simply did a strip of painter's tape on each one. Just like the main box, I primed each one with gray metal primer. While the primer on the drawers was drying, it still had not started raining, so I went back out and put a second coat on the box. To save time, I took all the drawers and I stacked them up, and then I hit them with a high gloss black. I put them back in their respective racks to dry. I pulled out a small grinder and grinded each wheel free of any rust. They cleaned up quick and nice. Just like in all my videos, I never edit out my screw-ups. Yep, I'm still an amateur. So when I went to put my wheels back on, this is when I realized that I had forgotten to paint the bottom of the box. What the heck, no one will ever see this, and primer will keep it from rusting. Okay, now that I have my mistake out of the way, let's get back to some overkill. I decided to make a topper for this box. So, raiding my scrap wood bucket, I glued together some wood to emulate what all the new toolboxes have, a wooden tabletop. I drew lines where the lip of the top of the box was, so the grooves that I routed would slide into the lip and lay flat on the top of the box snug. It was at this point I took it a bit too far. I started by routing my catchphrase into the top of the table with my CNC router. At this point, I guess I just didn't want to be done playing in the garage. There was too much light left in the day. From there, I mixed up a small batch of epoxy to match the color of the toolbox, and I poured it into the routed out letters. Then I ran a heat gun on it to get all the bubbles out, and I let that cure for an entire day. I then came back outside after a heavy rain to sand the top, and I didn't notice that the humidity had fogged up my camera, so sorry for the foggy footage. After sanding, I routed the perimeter of the tabletop and then polished the epoxy. My last step was to apply some teak oil to the top to give it that dark, smooth look. My finishing touch was to add my logo to the side of the box. If you are a subscriber, you probably already know this, but my catchphrase is not supposed to be perfectly straight. I purposely make it slightly crooked, because when you make this up as you go along, nothing is ever perfect. There is always room for improvement. So the next time you are at a garage sale and you see a beat up old toolbox, don't pass it by. As always, thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.